As interpreted.
Is there any exception?
Yes, there are exceptions to Miranda, and that is one of the ways in which that we conduct our interrogations of terrorism suspects. It's what we did with Abdul Muttalib. It is what we did with
Could you concentrate on the national security exception?
Yeah, there is it's called the public safety exception. It comes from the Quarles case and allows a police officer and a federal agent to question a suspect, a potential defendant, a terrorist, in order to protect the public safety, to ask questions such as, are you acting alone? Are there other bombs that we need to be worried about? Are there other people flying in who are going to be helping you? Things to ensure the public safety. We are allowed to ask those questions without giving Miranda warnings. And with regard to Abdul Muttalib and also with regard to Shahzad, we made extensive use of the public safety exception before a decision was made to give them their Miranda warnings.
Now, difficult question. According to process and precedent, about what is the vicinity of time that you call the public safety, I call it a national security exception, can last?
That's not really been defined by the courts. It is not it's not a prolonged period of time, but I will say, without getting into too much detail, that certainly it has been publicly reported that with regard to Abdul Muttalib, there was a 1 hour interrogation period under the public safety exception, and useful, valuable intelligence was gained in that 1 hour. A lot of people have said you only spoke to him for about an hour, or they say 50 minutes, without recognizing that in that period of time, qualified, experienced FBI agents can elicit really substantial amounts of information. And again, without getting into too much detail, with regard to Shahzad, the questioning under the public safety exception far exceeded the amount of time that we had with Mr. Abdul Muttalib.
Is it fair to say that process and precedent take that to around 3 to 6 hours?
I don't think the courts have never really said exactly how far you can go.
Prior use.
Yeah, I think that as long as you are asking questions, appropriate questions, probing about public safety issues, I think the courts are generally going to be supportive. And we have asked those questions, I think, appropriately, minding the dictates of the Supreme Court in the Quarles case. And as I said, with regard to Shahzad, really made use of that exception to elicit a very substantial amount of information from him before the decision was made to give him his Miranda warnings.